the world and the World Health Organization estimates that depression and anxiety alone cost the global economy 1 trillion with a T
Oh my
dollars per year in lost productivity, which is no surprise to me because, if your mental health isn't there, you don't have the clarity to focus. Mental health is just more important than ever in today's work environment because it directly impacts productivity and overall well-being. That really, even reading that right now, just like really hits home because it's sad. It's like it goes beyond just like it's sad so many people struggle. And it's really important, not even like from a business perspective, like where we're like, people are losing all this money, but it's just so sad to hear that people are just so unhappy.
It is very sad, Jenna. It's sad that in such a productive in 21st century, people are still suffering in the workplace and have to deal with that mental health issues and be so depressed. I mean, that's very sad. Very
And
sad.
like people have families and there's pressure. You can't not everybody has the luxury of like, well, just change jobs or, there's insurance, there's benefits riding on it to support people. There's so many layers to this. So when people are struggling like that, it just feels like it's very easy to see how people can get on like that never ending cycle.
Yeah.
And if we can help people, why would we not try?
Definitely. Well, that's kind of like leads us to the next topic, right? Like, how can leaders create that type of environment? And you just explained how your leader was able to create an environment for you that really promoted your mental well-being. I'm sure when you went home, you were able to continue.
I was always happy. I never felt sad on Sunday nights that I had to go to work the next day. I had a great team and a great boss. Awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of the most important, I think, roles for a leader is to create that type of environment that promotes well-being, emotional well-being. And I think that everything starts with creating a corrective emotional messages, right? A new corrective emotional experience, what we call in our process, is because when we get wrong signals and we start to have these thoughts that, oh my gosh, my manager doesn't approve of me, or my manager doesn't trust me, or my manager doesn't think I'm capable, then that's when the negative cycle, so to speak, starts to take over that relationship. We start to behave differently, we start to respond differently, and then continuous messages continue to disrupt our mental health. I remember working with this particular team in the banking industry, and this manager, she loved her people, and people loved her. But in a moment of stress, she would become very, very aggressive. And her team members, I mean, who were in high executive positions, they were scared of her. They saw her as a sergeant. And that environment created a lot of distress for them. And what they would do is they would just disengage. They would stop talking to her, or they would stop responding, or they would find all kinds of different excuses of just not engaging with her. And the more they did that, the more aggressive she would become. And then she would make all kinds of different policy changes without talking to them, which negatively impacted them. So the interesting part is when they did the emotional connection process, and I remember just taking them through the process, what happened to them is they started to get more clear on what was happening for them. So they became more clear on the message that they were sending to each other. So when her direct reports were able to say, it's really scary to talk to you when you're upset because you look like a sergeant. You demand, you become very critical of us, and we lose the manager that we like in that moment. And when they were able to say that from a vulnerable place where she could really hear how difficult it was for them, how scary it became, she started to cry. And she started to say, like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. I had no idea that this has such an impact on you. And she talked about her fears of how she gets scared when they don't respond to her, when they don't answer to her, right? You know, in the moment when she needs them. So that whole messaging start to get lost when people become disconnected and they don't know how to slow things down. They don't know how to really talk about their own fears and emotions that happens to them. And the automatic thoughts and protective behaviors that they go automatically into to get the connection back actually prolongs the negative cycle and prolongs more and more disconnection. So I think what leaders can really do to create that environment is, number one, learn how to be more attuned to your own emotions, to your own vulnerability, to your own triggers, so you can be more explicitly articulate what is happening for you. Maybe the manager that you had, Jenna, was not as quickly triggered as, you know, as some other managers. So it's very important to really learn about yourself so you can slow it down, you can recognize what's going on, and you can share it without attacking people or without them feeling like they're the bad guys or they're at fault of what's happening with you. And that corrective emotional experience is what continues to promote and create a more connected environment for people